Hello and welcome. I'm Darren, and today we will be checking out Horizon Forbidden West. So, first thing I'm going to I shouldn't have to prove it. Because to be fair, you're going to have to put some trust in me. Because unfortunately, what I see compared to what you see by the time it gets to YouTube is never going to be the same. So, I did say that I am unable. I assume I'm still unable. Yes, so at the moment I'm unable to change the DLSS overrides. So as I mentioned in my previous video, I will be running this with whatever version of DLSS is available in the game at this moment in time. I'm not even sure what that is. I could probably find out, but I'm not going to. So we're going to check the videos out. Now I haven't edited the videos into anything else because I was having an issue, and I'm going to be honest, the issue I was having is the recording files on this game were so big. Having to transfer, I didn't have something big enough to transfer the files across from the AMD system. So I was kind of forced into recording at a lower quality. And when I ran them side by side, it was not fair on the AMD system. Because side by side, it was affecting the image of the AMD, and I didn't think that that was fair. So I've had to cut short what I recorded on the AMD system. So what I basically haven't done on the AMD system, I've only recorded two settings. So I've recorded the settings, so you can see the settings that I'm running at and make sure that I haven't made a screw up, because this has been a bit of a nightmare. And basically all I've run is FSR AA and I've ran FSR quality. I haven't run a native. So in fact, I'll tell you what we're probably better off doing is, because on the 4080 I did, and the reason was all of my recording stuff, my mic, everything is all attached to my Nvidia system. I can render faster on that because I've got the 13700K and I've got more cores on that. So effectively what I'm doing is, at this moment in time, I'm capturing the AMD footage with the internal capture on the AMD, and then I'm transferring it by USB. I'm not changing the type of file. So I'm capturing an MP4, I'm transferring it to MP4, and we are watching it back in MP4. So as you can see, literally the two very short runs I did took nearly 20 gigabytes for 5 minutes worth of footage. So unfortunately, I've only got a 32 gigabyte USB drive that I could swap it with, and even though it's 32 gig, it only allows you to put 28 on. So, bit of a nightmare today. The file size on to try and record this game was a bit of a nightmare. So, what we'll do is we'll load up the 4080 first, because we did do TAA on the 4080. TAA on the 4080 will look exactly the same as TAA on the 7900 XTX. There is nothing going on in the game. It will render the same. The colors look the same. Everything looks the same. So, we can play. I wasn't intending on watching every single run that we do back, but I'll let this run because obviously you want to see the settings that I've got it set at. So, as you can see, I've got motion blur off. The sharpness is set to 5, and I've taken off all of the. If I quickly go back. I've taken off all of the... I've left bloom on, but I took off, obviously, depth of field and any of this stuff that could give any type of motion or edge screen blurriness or whatever it is, lens effects, all of that trash. Now, the biggest thing to probably take notice of, FSR is very good in this game, but it has an issue. It has two issues. When it actually comes to the actual quality of the picture, it doesn't have that much of an issue. What it has an issue with is ghosting with particles, and it has an issue with water. And it gets quite bad quite quick. And when I say it gets quite bad quite quick, it's noticeable at FSR AA. So we're running TAA at the moment, and none of that is a problem. FSR AA actually does have this problem. It doesn't struggle as much with the water, and it doesn't struggle as much with the particles, but it does compared to TAA. So as you can see in this, obviously the water down next to my hand is all kind of like water looking and clean and crisp, and the particles flying around. I think you'll generally tend to, you obviously get that problem with, you can see kind of up around her shoulder here. When things cross across the water, you can see they do this. So every now and then you will probably get the picture of something that will look like it's ghosting whilst it's moving over the water. It's not ghosting, it's just doing the whatever it is that happens when you don't have ray trace reflections or whatever it is. Someone with more technical knowledge will know more than me. But as you can see, it's a nice, crisp, clean picture. Everything's good, hunky-dory, nicey-nicey. I don't want to play this for too long. Oh shit. We'll go back to kind of, that's basically my run. I just run to a couple of areas. This is the last one, and then I stop and I change over settings. So as I say, I have prepared one side by side, and the side by side I've prepared we will get to after, but we'll go to the 7900 XTX. Like I said, I've done 2 runs on it. We'll go through, this is obviously a FSR AA, we're at 4K, 16:9. There's no VSync on, contrast 50%, no dynamic scaling, and everything else is on as high as it can go. Obviously, we don't have motion blur and we don't have those effects in place. Field of view's at 0. Obviously, as you can see, motion blur's down, and sharpness, if you go back and look at what we just did on the other one, is at 5. It's the same on both of them, unless I've made a complete screw up. But you can already see here, it's pretty evident that there is now some quite bad ghosting in the particles on the screen. Other than that, the rest of the picture is fine. You could live with it. In terms of frames per second, we're around 60. We're just dropping below 60. Funny enough, I think both systems actually run pretty much identical, which I was quite surprised. I did expect the XTX to probably be ahead in this game. Not by a huge amount at 4K. I mean, it might be ahead by 1 or 2 FPS. I don't think there's a lot in it. Obviously, they're not identical systems. This one's paired with this 7800X3D. The other one's paired with the 13700K. There are outlying games where that will make a difference. There's a lot of games where it won't really make much difference, maybe 1 or 2 FPS. So you could probably put it down to that. But yeah, so obviously here we are. You can kind of, I will show you in a bit, obviously. At this point, even with the FSR AA, you're starting to get some ghosting, and you're starting to get the water doesn't quite look how it should do. It's not terrible at this. It kind of looks a little bit strange around here. But the main thing probably at this point is you've got a little bit of ghosting in the particles. It's not bad, but it is what it is, because I will point out anything that I see which becomes a degradation in picture quality. And as you can see it kind of, if you're looking around kind of this area, you can see obviously there is something there to be seen. I could play it like this, it wouldn't be the end of the world. You could play it with TAA and get the same, and TAA in this game kind of looks okay. So I don't think you'd probably play it with FSR AA, because TAA doesn't do that, and it's about the same performance. So you'd probably choose TAA if I'm being honest. You can kind of make it out here again. Obviously, when it crosses the water, that could not necessarily be something, so bear that in mind. But yeah, you can kind of see that there's definitely something going on there. It's noticeable. It's not a big deal. I'm not making these things out to be a big deal. This isn't AMD hate. And I believe the next video is, let's get there. So we've gone, the only change we're making is we're going to go from AA to FSR 3 quality. I believe it's got FSR 3.1 in this game. I'm pretty sure. So you can kind of make out there in the particles, it's going to start to get a bit worse with the picture quality wise. It looks okay. It's probably softened a little bit. Nothing major. You could play like this if you wanted to. We're up to around, you can see kind of like 90 FPS, just falling a bit short of it now, but there or thereabouts. Yeah, it's definitely softened the image a bit. It's nothing bad. You can see I haven't obviously changed. You've seen it live. I haven't changed. We literally just changed recording. This has all been recorded together in a loop. I didn't stop the recording and then restart the recording, so you can probably see yourself that it's maybe gone a little bit softer, but not a massive amount. And obviously, if you wanted to, there's a sharpen slider in here, so it's obviously at its default 5. There's room to sharpen, there's room to soften, so there's not a big issue there. You can probably see now this part, you've got your ghosting going on with the particles. It's probably quite bad when you look in areas like this, or probably anywhere, and you can see this water is really now doing something a bit strange. It's probably not noticeable now, but when we do a side-by-side in a bit, you'll probably see it a bit more. Even so there, actually. I don't think that's going to show up in the side-by-side, which is probably a bit of a shame, but again, it is what it is. So the ghosting's quite bad now. It's kind of like a comet storm. The rest of the image is fine, so it's probably a little bit of a shame really that it's got that problem. Probably a little bit softer in the tree details, where obviously everything was a little bit more crisp and whatever it was before, but that's fine. I mean, realistically on this GPU you could just run it at TAA and probably run, I'm sure this has got AMD frame generation in it. If you wanted to, you could just run it at 60 with TAA. But obviously not everyone's got a 7900 XTX, so it doesn't mean that you can't play at 4K with something a little bit lesser. You can, and you can play it like this and you can just ignore it. But yeah, you can kind of see it now, and the water now is gone that little bit strange. It doesn't have its kind of translucent kind of quality to it anymore. It kind of begins to lose that. So we'll go to the 4080 and we'll check that out. This is going to start off obviously at TAA again, so we're not going to watch that. This is just going to run through the settings again. We can quick check them just to make sure. So yeah, as you can see, TAA, and then you can see here everything's the same. Sharpness is at field of view's at 0, motion blurs down, sharpness is at 5. This, all of that junk is off. I say junk, someone might do right. There's no point else watching that one because we've already watched it. You can see obviously I'm filming all of this in a loop, so literally none of this has been stopped or re-edited. I didn't want to edit this because I didn't want to. This is basically the raw file as it's been recorded. I didn't want to edit it and interfere with it and then re-edit it and re-edit it and re-edit it, because every time you do that you're going to just start losing quality. So as you can see, I'm not stopping in between the recording. I'm just going back to the save point because I didn't want time of day to affect anything in this. I wanted everything to make sure that it stayed the same, so no one pointed out, oh, it's changed color, or it's done this, or it's done that. So we go now to, I believe we go to DLAA, if I'm correct in thinking. I did 4 on this because, like I said, I didn't have to put it on a USB stick and I didn't have to transfer it over, so I had room to do a bigger file. So you can see DLAA is around about the same performance, 60 FPS or whatever it is, around about the same as what FSR AA was. And it has no problem. It holds up fine. There's no ghosting, there's no weird stuff going on. Like to me, there is nothing at this moment in time that probably beats DLAA. There's probably no point me finishing this. We'll get to where the water is. You can see the water holds up fine here, exactly the same as what it is on TAA. It kind of still has that kind of translucent look to it. It's holding up kind of better around there, and it holds up better around the waterfalls, and you don't have the ghosting. Everything is kind of clean details, everything's all crisp and as it should be, all nice and dandy. Water looks nice and clear, all good. Move across to this image, check for ghosting again in the corner, but it's all fine. So DLAA is doing fine, it's around about 60 FPS, so both GPUs doing pretty much the same, which, like I said, I was quite surprised, but it's fine. And yes, everything else there looks pretty clean, like this tree in the background, clean detail, not over sharp, not over soft, how you like it, how you want it. All good. There's no kind of, you can see, obviously, there's no motion blurring going on or anything. I wouldn't expect there to with DLAA. Yeah, all good, all clean, no ghosting. Water still has, I mean, the water in this game, obviously, when you look out there, it doesn't look particularly nice. It is what it is. That's just as it is in game. It's the same at TAA or anything. Nothing changes that. It's just around here where it gets it goes murky with FSR, whereas with DLSS it just doesn't seem to affect it as bad. So we'll go to the next one, which should be DLSS quality. That takes us up to about 90 FPS, and we don't have any ghosting. Everything is clean and crisp and nice. You can see all the details here, all the little leaves. Everything is good. Nothing's over sharpened. You can see down here, nothing's over sharpened, nothing's over soft. You can watch out in the distance. There's no blur going on. Everything's good. And we've gained a pretty decent bit of performance. So like I said, I'm not sure what version of DLSS this is in this game, but whatever it is, it seems to be doing just fine. Like you can see, there's no blur. Nothing out in the distance is blurry. Nothing around here is blurry. It's clean. I didn't want to do all of this in side-by-sides or above and under because watching a bit of screen never really gives you a full impression. You can see here the water just looks glassy. It looks nice. There's nothing weird going on. Down here it's doing it might be starting to do, I don't think it is. I think that's kind of probably similar to how it looks at TAA. What are we at the moment? Exactly 9 minutes. Let's go back to TAA and have a quick look. No. Back. Jesus Christ, what did that just do? So this is TAA at 60 FPS. So yeah, it still kind of looks a bit funny at native. Looks glassy and like it should do here. Kind of does look a little bit funny down there. We'll go back to 9 minutes. Damn, that was good. Maybe a little bit. Hard to know. I'd have to really run it side by side. Here looks fine. Waterfalls look fine. We've got no ghosting. We've got no blur on movement. That tree that we were looking at before looks nice and clean. I mean, we've just gained a pretty decent bit of performance and the game looks absolutely banging. It looks good. All of these fine details, no problem whatsoever. All these particles, no problem whatsoever. I don't know why anyone would play that in native. I honestly, yeah, I'll stop there. I'm going to leave it there. If you don't want that free performance for whatever you think you're losing, I don't know what you think you're losing. That's all I'm going to say. Personally, I would absolutely play this at DLSS quality. Because there is absolutely, to me, no reason not to. Here, this down here, like I said, it does look a little bit oily back there. It does at TAA. you can still see that you can make out, well, I can make out, you might not get to on YouTube, but I can make out the fish swimming around over there. So, and the fish swimming around over there. All good. But for a little bonus, we're actually going to move to, because I actually was quite surprised it held up actually pretty good. We'll move to balanced. Come on. And I think balance was where, like I said, I don't know what DLSS this is. I'm going to be interested myself to see if DLSS 4 holds up any better, but we still don't get the, I didn't hold it there, which is a little bit annoying. We'll see when we get to the other end, but I think this is probably, I mean, there's no motion blur. Everything still looks fine. These details, you start to get a little bit of something. You notice a little bit of a, I don't know if it's sharpness. I don't know if it's a slight aliasing around some of the kind of finer detail areas. Like in these, I think I noticed a little bit of harshness in this or in these. I mean, you're not getting a huge performance gain at this point. I'm probably getting, am I hitting a CPU bottleneck? Where am I? I can't even make out that thing. No, I'm at 99%. But I mean, realistically, look, it's still extremely clean. The water is probably, I mean, it still looks glassy here. It's fine. Here it might be breaking up a little bit more, but I don't know. It's hard to really tell. All of this detail out here, I've got a feeling this starts to maybe go a little bit sharp. As in, I could probably play with this at balanced. I might turn down the sharpness from 5 to 4. I think that looks a little bit sharpened now, which is interesting. Normally I find any of the upscalers, I find FSR normally goes sharp. I find DLSS, it's hard. It can go either way. I expected it to probably look soft. I've got a feeling it's maybe looking a bit sharp. But you can see, obviously, there's a load of particles going past. They're still not doing anything crazy. It's holding up really well. Like I said, you can see there we're in motion. There's no blurring. It's nothing. Everything out in the background out here is clean. You can see the old dyno out there doing whatever it's doing. Water still looks pretty translucent. You can see the rat running under the water. It might be starting, you can see the fish down there, it might be starting to get a little bit more weird look to it out there. I don't know. These trees, look how clean and crisp they are. So it's DLSS doing what DLSS does. I don't want to hype it, but I have to give it its dues. It is an impressive technology. Some people hate it. I understand. For some parts I understand. For some parts I don't understand. I'm not going to get into a DLSS or an upscaler argument. So the other thing I did have was, which I had to render to actually obviously be able to put them side by side, is they don't match up. So this is just taken from the two videos we've watched. So I think this one, it's going through the settings that I did at the start, because I've used both of those two videos and then I've taken these bits from those two videos to render this one video. So this is obviously the start of the AMD video. You can tell here we're on the AMD GPU. You can see here we're on the Nvidia GPU. This is FSR AA, and this is DLSS at quality. We've just watched them running, so there's no point us watching them running. We'll get to a place where for a split second, I believe I've got them matched up kind of here, where we can have a quick look and you can kind of see how on the DLSS side this water looks a bit cleaner and a bit kind of glossy. This water here starts to get a bit funny looking. And And you can probably see maybe in the next image, when I turn around, you obviously have this kind of ghosting in the particles. DLSS quality, you're not getting the ghosting in the particles. Other than that, everything else looks and matches up pretty much the same. So 90 versus 60, and the Nvidia GPU doesn't have the ghosting of the particles, and the water quality looks slightly better. I can only say what I'm seeing in front of me. Yeah, it is what it is, unfortunately. You can kind of see it. I don't know if you will on YouTube. I can see it now. You can see it more when you're actually in game, because believe it or not, in game looks better than both of these. These, like this recording that I've got in front of me right now, before it goes through YouTube and gets completely shafted, it looks even better than these two recordings in real life. So the water is a little bit more noticeable. You might not notice it so much, but obviously you can kind of see on this pause frame all of these details, all of these little fine details. It's there. This one's at obviously FSR AA, and this one's at DLSS quality. And I can tell you without any shadow of a doubt, if you have a Nvidia GPU, there is no way in hell you're running it like this. And you can run it like this because you can run FSR AA on your Nvidia GPU. It ain't happening. You would be using this option over this option. And that's just like a harsh reality. I'm not here to big up one side. I'm not here to big up the other side. I don't do GPU wars. I'm just being realistic, and I'm being honest with what's in front of me. And if I had the Nvidia GPU that I had the option of doing this or this, I'm doing this, because the water looks... Oh, go back. Because the water has a little bit more of a gloss, transparent look to it, and the particles aren't ghosting. Other than that, it looks pretty good. It looks this. Other than that, it looks the same. So that's it. This has gone on for nearly half an hour, which is pretty painful. I'm not going to drag it on for any more than that. If anyone wants to see any more in the way of, I think we've probably concluded by this part that we're happy that the colours are the same. I don't think we need to carry on bringing that one up anymore. Hopefully everyone's happy with that, but hey, maybe someone's seeing something that I'm not. I don't know. But yeah, there we go. Red's red, blues are blues. It's all good. Like I said, obviously this one's being upscaled from 1440p. This one's at native. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know if you've seen enough, if you're happy with what you've seen. Unfortunately, I did obviously say in the video leading up to this that I don't have Horizon Zero Dawn. Annoyingly, my son does, but he has a different Steam account. I don't want to log into his Steam account and play the login, log out game, because I know something will end up going wrong and I'll get locked out of my Steam account, and that will really annoy me. So, the games, I don't see a reason why the games would really run that much different. Obviously, if you were playing those games and you're not in an area where the particles are flying around, and you're not in an area with water, or you just ignore it and you don't care, then both of those, then FSR and DLSS will look perfectly okay in that game. I've got a feeling it's probably the best version of FSR. Obviously, FSR below quality does start to break down, and stuff does, like the fine grass, when it's like fine like this, it does start to get a little bit nasty. So you probably still wouldn't want to go below FSR quality. you can go to DLSS balancing in the other way, but obviously I can only point out the issues that I've seen. Those are the issues. Some people will say I'm being petty. I'm not being petty. I'm being honest, and I'm showing you what I see. But if you still think that's petty, well, that's your problem, not mine. So I'm going to leave it there, and I will catch you in the next one.